So I'm Roger Holzberg, and I'm a dad. I'm a two-time cancer caregiver. I'm a 14-and-a-half-year survivor. I'm a former Disney Imagineer, and I'm the co-founder of Reimagine Well. But I'm here to talk about how the architecture of reassurance that we used in Disney theme parks, we're now applying to an architecture of healing. For me, this journey begins about 50 years ago. And it traverses the entirety of the patient journey, which I group beginning with diagnosis and treatment, which we do fairly well in our healthcare facilities in the US, but specifically to bridge it then across healing and well-being, which I don't think we do very well. Rewind about 50 years. I used to watch The Wonderful World of Disney every Sunday night with my best friend who lived about a block away. When we were 14, Stuart got diagnosed with a very aggressive and a terminal pediatric cancer. About 8 months later, he was gone. This was my first caregiving experience. A little over a decade later, as the oldest child of a divorced couple, I was making the end-of-life decisions for my mom. At that time, there was no hospice care, and those end-of-life decisions included turning the valve that put her at peace. After that moment, my healthcare provider dad came to me and said, okay, now, of course, you're going to go into medicine and science and help fix this cancer mess, right? To which I said, the hell with that. I'm going to art school, which I did. I was fortunate to go to the Walt Disney's California Institute of the Arts and ultimately ended up in my dream job at Walt Disney Imagineering. I got to build an animatronic free-swimming dolphin at a Caribbean island. I got to be the creative lead for the Millennium Celebration. I got to lead a project called Virtual Magic Kingdom, where we had 5.5 million kids in a virtual Disneyland interacting with real kids in bricks and mortar theme parks worldwide. And I always say I would happily still be drinking the Disney Kool-Aid were it not for the eve of my 50th birthday when I heard the three words that 1 in 2 American men and 1 in 3 American women will hear during the course of their lifetime. You have cancer. As a patient, your world instantly becomes a rush of white noise. You see a physician across a table from you, and their mouth is moving, and they're saying words from a language that you do not understand. You cannot take it in. You're in shock. I think my shock probably lasted for about 2 weeks, and then I went, okay, you're an Imagineer. You're trained in how to use engineering and imagination and solve a problem. How do you apply this to your problem? I gathered a team of my closest friends and confidants that included my healthcare professionals, and for the next 4 years, did a lot of volunteering. We redesigned hospital lobbies. We took an attraction that I'd done at Epcot with Crush the Turtle, if you know the Pixar character, and we made Crush a comfort friend at a pediatric hospital in Orange County. I developed a platform for myself and my own survivorship that involved setting goals at each phase of the patient journey and utilizing the power and knowledge of my community to achieve those health goals. And then I did the media for the launch of Livestrong.com, the Living With stories, and all that bubbled up to get me recruited to be, thanks, the first creative director at our National Cancer Institute, where I brought in the evolution of cancer.gov. So on screen, you see my 2 favorite work IDs I've ever had. My National Institutes of Health federal ID and my Sorcerer Mickey badge. Along the way, diagnosis and treatment. How do we deal with diagnosis and treatment? Well, the platform that I developed for myself was being used by that point by many, many thousands of people. But I'll show you a little bit of my plan. During my diagnosis phase, my goals were pretty simple. I needed to find a surgeon that I would trust my life with. That was my first diagnosis goal. I achieved that one, and it took a while because the first surgeon that my GP referred me to was not anybody I was going to let cut me. My treatment goals went pretty well as well. But treatment then broadened into a different view. When I was in treatment, I was watching paint peel off a wall in a circa 1980s hospital, and that was not my definition of healing. So we went out and started asking patients, if you could get your treatment anywhere in the universe and there were absolutely no rules, what place would best heal you? And in the 5+ years we've been asking pediatric and adolescent patients that question, never once has one come back and said, oh, the place that would best heal me, that would be a hospital. Turns out we have our own places that we believe are healing for us, and they're probably as diverse as our tastes in music. So we created an infusionarium, and we've built 26 of them, but there are about 5,200 patients and families who have access to their immersive healing places on their smart devices. But rather than me tell you what some patient immersive healing places are, if you'll play the video, there are some patients who can tell you about them themselves.
We sent a survey to all of our patients and asked, if you could heal anywhere in the universe, where would you choose to heal? What is your special healing place?
I forgot about my troubles, my life struggles, and water became my life, my strength, and my healing place.
I always dream about the mountains, and this is my healing place.
When you're visiting a peace pagoda, no matter what faith you believe in, you're always going to find a healing place because it helps you find that inner hope and inner strength that you really need.
My name is Trevor, and I think the world of the future would definitely be healing, because in the future I might not have to have these things if I had cancer. Treatment might be much more like quick, efficient, and easier on us.
If I fly, I can see all the traffic, and I can fly past the traffic and never get caught. Would it be cool if I could fly with my family, because it will be a happy thing for all of us to fly together.
You would have to.
So what suddenly started to happen is patients had impact in the way they were being treated, and they had personalization in the kind of distraction therapy that the hospitals were providing for them, and pain meds were reduced, and side effects meds were reduced along the way. I know for me, flying in the sky without wings and using clouds like trampolines would not have been a good experience while I was in chemo, but I'm not 8. So healing and well-being, we then started to look at beyond treatment. And this is the place where I think our current medical system often falls down. I know that when I finished treatment, I felt like I got drop-kicked out of the hospital with a couple of pieces of paper, a few web URLs on them, and a recommendation for a video, and a, hey, good luck. Don't call your multidisciplinary care team anymore because, well, we don't have a billing code to take care of you while you're well. So if you get sick again, call us and we'll interact with you again, but you're pretty much on your own now. And that's not a good place for patients to be. So I started using my same plan. I said, well, this is going to be easy. I'll just set achievable health goals during the next phase of my patient journey, because I'm like going through my structured journey part of how would I, as a Disney Imagineer, go through this story. So I set my healing goals, and then I got in trouble. My 4th healing goal was 4 triathlons by my next birthday. My healthcare professional, one of them, said, I need you to set a realistic health goal. To which I said, I think I just did. And if you can't get me there, then you're fired, and please recommend a provider who can. To which she said, and I applaud her for standing her ground, hey, listen, pal, here's the deal. You're on a hormone every day for the rest of your life. Hormone dosing is based on a bell curve, and the 50-year-old who decides they're going to do triathlons for the first time in their life is not on that bell curve. I won't know how to medicate you. And if you decide to do this, you're going to have to self-medicate, which I can't recommend. So, good luck if you decide to do this. I walked away and said, how hard can self-medicating be? I called this my spreadsheet from hell. So I, as a patient, had to figure out how to self-medicate. This is the edited, scoped-down version of 14 plus years worth of blood markers that came every quarter and went into my spreadsheet from hell, along with my microgrammed dosages of my meds, along with my body weight and everything else that was relevant in order for me to help myself figure out how to have the optimum health that I wanted post-treatment. And it took me about 7 years to be able to figure out how to do it, about the length of time that med school might have been. The well-being phase of my patient plan, you'll see the little bar graph in green, is not complete because I reset those goals every single year. As a patient, I don't think my health will ever be perfect, so I will reset my health goals every year and redesign them. But enough about me. I would like to show you what other patients and some organizations and a hospital or two have done with this kind of thinking around the healing and well-being part of the patient journey. I love this guy. This guy is a rock star. He put a blog into his patient plan called Day 5 Post-Surgery, in which he described for prostate cancer patients a specific style of warm-up pants that have snaps that come up along the side so that your catheter line can get snaked out between snaps, carried in a gym bag or a shopping bag, so that post-op you can walk around your neighborhood or walk on a treadmill at your gym and not be humiliated by the fact that you're showing that you're carrying a bag for a catheter. Like, healthcare providers don't think about that kind of healing and well-being goal and facilitation for a patient. His next blog I just had to put up here because I love the title of it, Ding Dong, the Cath is Gone. You know what that one was about. This is an organization, the Prostate Cancer Foundation, decided that for its patient education in the healing and well-being phase, and through this platform, a patient can dial in where they want their advice, and this is dialed into well-being. There's a series of tips for life for their patients. What I love about that is you can see in orange, every one of these tips for life has an evidence-based link to allow that patient or caregiver to dive deeper and learn why this is a valuable thing for them to have during this part of their patient journey. This is a provider who actually works in the Stanford area in children's as a oncology social worker. Again, there's an evidence-based link in her post about how during the healing or well-being phase you guide pain in sobriety for patients who have been amputees. The other blog of hers that I love, again, an evidence-based link designed for adolescent young adult sarcoma patients, an AYA tennis camp. If you have gone through sarcoma and you want to get back to an active lifestyle, where do you find a local support community to do that with patients just like yourself? And lastly, this is a hospital in South Florida which has used a platform we developed to talk to their patients across the entire patient journey with the voice of their original care team. So their original care team has come together and taken the educational material that exists, but done it in the language and the literacy level so that 24/7 on a platform that a patient wants or needs, they can have that information when it's relevant for them. Lastly, does all of this add up to any better health outcomes? So what we've learned over the last 5 years, yes, in fact, optimism leads to better health outcomes. There's an NCI study that I love that shows that self-declared optimists have, with advanced cancer diagnoses, have better 5-year survivorships than self-declared pessimists. Enhanced education and post-treatment support tools enabling patients to learn in the format and way that they believe, not only, as it turns out, reduce readmissions, but potentially reduce recurrence. Distraction therapy has been used for a very long time. Distraction therapy that is directed by patients for themselves in hospital settings, like what we call immersive healing experiences, turn out even have a greater reduction of side effects meds. And lastly, we all know community support is a valuable thing. So for those of you who are here as patients or caregivers, you know this. For those of you who are in med school or practicing, just because there's not a billing code for helping patients in the healing and well-being phases of the patient journey doesn't mean that your backs can be turned on them. We need to find a way to support patients to optimize their health through the entire journey 24/7. Thanks for your time. I don't know if we have any time for Q&A or not.
I think we have a few minutes. Any questions from the audience? You can just raise your hand.
Hi, really awesome presentation, and congratulations on your personal and professional success.
Oh, thank you.
Touch wood. Anywho, I'm just curious, have you looked to other countries, other cultures, faraway places for inspiration, especially on these important facets and drawing down on what they do and how they approach healing, well-being, and so forth?
So yes, one of, I call them our wild card client, is the National Hospital Network of Thailand, and I'd be happy to talk to you later. Their version of immersive healing experiences are very different than what we have in the US, and I find with every culture, truthfully, or patient demographic, I'm always surprised by the immersive healing experiences. We think our job is to listen to patients and give them what they believe they need, as opposed to tell them what we think would be good for them. And the learning of that is huge. It's like when a group of adolescent young adult patients came back and said, oh, we want to get our treatment in peace pagodas. I said, fantastic. What's a peace pagoda? And then they literally gave us the list of the peace pagodas, places to pray for world peace around the planet that they wanted to be in when they were in chemotherapy. So we mobilized our GoPro network of filmmakers, and we got them to those places virtually, right? But yeah, it's a learning experience, and it's different depending on where you are culturally or demographically or age-wise.
Thank you so much. Really exciting to see this. I am wondering if you have to go and about and how you do so, convincing healthcare systems that this is valuable and worth the cost that it requires typically. Clearly there's lots of obvious value, but demonstrating that and the positive cost to benefit ratio is key.
Sure. So the way it has worked, we have built 26 actual facilities, but we're in a lot of rooms just via smart TVs in hospital rooms, and on about 5,200 just smart platforms. So there are organizations we work with, like a West Virginia organization that looks at this and goes, we'll never be able to afford to build an infusionarium, but we need your educational stuff because you have an oncofertility guide, and there isn't even an oncofertility specialist in the state of West Virginia. So we just got a grant to get 15 tablets, and those are our infusionariums. That doesn't cost a lot. So the way to democratize it, I think, is it does require a smart platform, or a smartphone at least, which doesn't always exist in some places. So, but that's the minimal cost. Does that answer your question? Okay. And I saw the Australian guy go up.
So, very loud. So I went to a VR medicine conference a while ago, and there were a lot of vendors there sort of coming up with ideas like, oh, we'll have whale music and colors, and it seemed very top down, like let's guess what will distract people. And I kept thinking, just get a copy of like Vice City and it'll distract whoever's playing it away from their pain. So I want to talk about the difference of you going up from the patient versus some of these corporations that are trying to build things, deciding ahead of time what might be a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, when you get diagnosed with cancer or any life-threatening disease, every bit of power gets stripped away from you. You're told where you're going to go, how many times you're going to get poked, when the blood draw is going to happen, what time, you know, it's so dehumanizing. And to put any personal empowerment back into treatment in a hospital, we just found was super important. And, you know, it's fascinating to be, I'm always the non-science person in the room, right? I'm not going to be the person to ever tell any one of you what I think would be healing for you and have it matter. You know, it's as individualized as music. There was a program done at Cancer Treatment Centers of America where a music therapist designed the right music for the right chakra, for the right type of treatment. And I can tell you, if I had heard that music when I was in treatment, I would have thrown whatever device was playing it to me against the wall. You know, I wanted to listen to Sting or Springsteen or whatever, when I was in treatment, and it wasn't always the same on the same day. You know, my dad wanted to listen to classic music when he was in, treatment for Parkinson's later on. So I think it's individualized. I think, as I said, I think our job is to listen to what patients will believe is healing and get them as close to that as they can. If it were Vice City, it would be Vice City. If it were, and sometimes it is. I got in trouble at a hospital. So our systems also have there are patients who are in chemotherapy for 12 plus hours, right? That's a long time. The immersive healing experiences fill some of that. And there was a group of adolescent young adult patients where one kid raised his hand and said, can I put in my own video game? I don't want to do a hospital game. I said, I'm willing to bet you've got Call of Duty in your bag. He said, you bet your ass I do. I said, why is Call of Duty going to be healing for you? He said, because I'm pissed off and because I'm not at home being able to play it with my friends. So if I could play Xbox Live here, it would help me blow off some steam. I said, if you think it's going to lower your anxiety on treatment to play Call of Duty, if it's okay with the other kids in the room and their parents, we'll boot up Call of Duty and kill some effing Nazis, right? So that's what they ended up doing. I got wrist slapped for it the next day. And I had this argument with the head of radiology. I said, as far as I'm concerned, my job is enabling patients to do what they believe will be healing, not what you believe will be healing. And if you disagree, then fire me. But anyway, sorry, long-winded answer to a good question.
Oh, hey, so Dr. George Morgan-Smith, the Australian guy. So I suppose my question is thinking continuity of care, right? So you've got your point of care where somebody's getting chemotherapy, right? Are you looking at other situations? So if somebody's got a healing experience that makes them feel great, is it expandable? So when they're at home, they can access that with VR or similar?
Great question. So we started off in the pediatric space because my co-founder is a hematologist oncologist at Children's Hospital of Orange County. We just started our first adult pilot at Miami Cancer Institute, and they're using the immersive healing experience concept as an integration into their mindfulness training for adult chemotherapy. They access in the pilot, they access from home via smartphone or tablet or computer or smart TV, 5 days before chemo, 2 days before chemo, during chemo, and then 1 day post. and we are tracking, compliance with the mindfulness immersive healing experience that patient has requested, and they're monitoring while they are in treatment, heart rate, certain vitals. So the answer is yes. And in terms of VR, if you're talking about head-mount displays, having built a lot of head-mount display attractions at Disney, I have a person, cutting to the chase, between infection control and length of chemotherapy, and with the longest head-mount display experience, even for healthy people, being 15 to 18 minutes optimized. And we have patients in infusion for 8, 10, 12 hours. Head-mount displays have a place, I think, in medical experience, but it's not in long-form chemotherapy. So there's a great piece of research done on distraction therapy on screens. And as it turns out, the benefits of distraction therapy, whether it's on a cell phone or a TV or a head-mount display, are pretty much the same. So, think about watching movies. You can watch a movie on your cell phone, while you're flying on a plane across the country, or you can watch it in an Omnimax theater. If it's a bad movie, it's going to be a bad movie. If it's a great movie, it's going to be a great movie. It's going to be a little more immersive in the Omnimax theater, but your heart and soul and the story is going to be the same. You're welcome.
Do one last question.
Hi, I'm Anirudh. I'm a dentist, so I come from a provider community. And the biggest concern with all the three things that were presented today, FUYA, Dance for Healing, and Immersive Healing, the thing is that if it can be prescribed and covered by the insurance, prescribed by the doctors and covered by the insurance, is that a territory you're working on? If you think that could happen quickly, or how long will it take for that?
So we've been funded in a number of different ways. So Miami Cancer Institute was a brand new $750 million institute built from the ground up, and we got to build a Disney ride quality infusionarium there. The reason is because they're in proximity to 4 other pediatric cancer centers within 20 miles, and they need to be able to market something that's different. So they rationalize it as marketing there. A lot of foundation things have happened, but in terms of the enhanced education part across the entire patient continuum, I think is where it really lands. Because if you can show reduction in readmittance and reduction in recurrence, that's big. I don't really know the answer to your question because we haven't played in the insurance space at all yet, and I don't think you guys have had the opportunity to, and I don't know about Amy.
Your question, yes. There are 2 CPT codes. One is called neuromuscular reeducation. The other one is called therapeutic activities. You could prescribe dance as part of the rehab therapy. You have to educate doctors that are willing to work with you, and where they will get the money from the insurance and reimburse you. And so currently, a lot of these research were presented already. It's published medical research funded by NIH mostly. In order to make sure this telehealth platform also cover in those kind of insurance code, we wanted to conduct our own research. But really, it's like I need help with more education, more connection that are willing to work with companies like us.
And I think we're in the midst of 2 IRB studies now, and I think the output of those will help in terms of insurance provider rationalization as well.
Oh, great. So yeah, I thought that was fantastic. Just as a personal experience as an anesthesiologist, we have these MRI safe goggles that we can display semi-VR type videos, and we use Disney movies like crazy to help kids with managing that environment because it's extremely loud, very concerning. And if they can't handle that, then they have to have an anesthetic. So for sure, we are significantly improving morbidity and mortality by offering this type of ability. So thank you.
Welcome.